I've been playing a ton of Pac-Man World 2 Re-Pac on Nintendo Switch 2, though it's available on every major platform, including Nintendo Switch 1. And I've got to talk about it, Don. That's why I brought you on here. I know you played a little bit of this game at Gamescom. I've been playing the full game. I beat the full game last night. And as a longtime fan of the original Pac-Man World 2 back on the GameCube, over 20 years ago, I've been wanting to play this new one and talk about it. And I have to say, it's been pretty interesting. So Don, you got any questions for me?
Yes, for sure. So, obviously, there was a Re-Pac for the original Pac-Man World, which was sort of a reimagining of what the original game was trying to be. Is that a similar case here?
Yeah, so I never actually played either version of the original Pac-Man World, the first one. But to my understanding, this game seems to be very much in that same vein. In that this doesn't really seem to be like a remaster or even a visual remake. It really does kind of reimagine everything. So the core of the game is still largely the same, in that you have the same amount of levels, at least in the main game, more on that later, along with each of them featuring the same basic gameplay mechanics as in the original too. But each of those levels have been basically entirely redesigned, or at the least greatly expanded, to the point that they basically feel like entirely new levels. Though, like, if you're ice skating a level, you're still ice skating in the new one, but the level itself built around the mechanic has been totally changed, for the better or worse, you could say, just depending on your perspective, I suppose. Oh, and the world map has been completely redesigned, where now each world branches out from the central Pac village, rather than you going through a straight line through the world, which I think makes way more sense, and I actually do like that. And there also are a handful of new elements as well, including core controls, like how your butt bounce now, if you time it right, if you time it at the height of your bounce, you do a super bounce. And the game's kind of built around that, which is probably also why they had to update the levels, because you kind of need the high bounce pretty often. They also added a weird throw move where you can throw the pellets you collect, and I guess that gives the pellets a secondary purpose, but move also kind of feels a little weird, and you don't really need it outside of like a boss battle or two, I think, so I mostly ignored it.
Not really useful then.
Yeah, not very at all. And they also added a new flutter jump too, which I'm gonna be honest, Don, I pretty much completely forgot about. So yeah, to answer your question, it's really kind of a reimagining of Pac-Man World 2.
So, you're talking about the world map, which seems like a big departure from what that original game was. So, does it really add to the overall game? Does it give it a new purpose, really?
I wouldn't say it gives it a new purpose, but I will say it was weird going back to the original, because I forgot that the original was just literally a linear map. Like, you're going from, like, each time you open a new world, you're just crossing the end of World 1 into World 2 on the world map. Whereas here, now, you return back to Pac Village, and you take a new route that branches from Pac Village to the new world that opened up.
That's kind of cool, though.
It is
like
cool.
That.
I think it feels, and I think it feels better. It makes way more sense. It also gives you more reason to revisit Pac Village, which was so easy to forget about in the original game, since you never really needed to go back there. So I do think that is a good improvement, and actually does enhance the overall gameplay feel in terms of like proceeding through the game.
You're talking about the pallet throwing mechanic. You're talking about the butt stomp. Is there anything new control or move wise that people should keep in mind?
Yeah, well, I touched on the new moves, but I will say the controls in general feel a little different, and I don't know if it's for the better necessarily. So Pac-Man World 2 always had a kind of distinct feel to it, like almost a like a really smooth feel that I always really liked. You could like elegantly get into the butt bounce, and you would like just kind of maintain your momentum as you were bouncing around. Whereas this one really kind of changes that, especially with the introduction of the super bounce, which really halts all your momentum and forces you to go straight down. And I don't I didn't love how that felt initially, and I still don't quite like it as much as how the original game felt. But initially I'm like, whoa, this feels weird, I don't like it, because so much of what I liked about the original game was how it felt. But I will say, after getting more to grips with it and taking the game more on its own means, or on its own merits, rather than it being a true remaster of the original, I started to appreciate what it was doing a little bit more than I did before. So I will say, to answer it in a grander sense, I still kind of wanted a true remaster of the original game for how it felt, with how smooth everything felt, and how well it and how well everything just kind of worked together. But for what the new game is, essentially being a reimagining, I also liked it too.
Right. So, talking about the levels a bit, you're saying that they're almost completely different. How about the bosses? Are those similar to the original?
The first boss is the most similar. That's probably the only one that is like basically the same, except, still updated a little bit. But the others are basically entirely new boss fights outside of a handful of similarities. But you're basically taking on new creatures that have new attack patterns, and it really feels very different to the original game. And I would say it's a pretty big upgrade over the original game, which pretty much just reused the same design over and over.
Upgrade in which sense? Do they make usage of the new moves of Pac-Man? Are there more mechanics involved? How are they changed, really?
They just feel a little bit better, a little bit more thought out. In the previous game, they felt a little, especially going back to it now, they felt a little haphazard. It wasn't always entirely clear what you were supposed to do in some of the boss fights. And now I think it is more clearer. And I will say in particular, I think it was the fourth boss fight or fifth, somewhere around there. It does some really cool stuff that wasn't at all in the original game, and I really thought that was pretty neat. Reminding me more of a boss fight from the final boss of Mario Wonder, which was a good sign. And this wasn't even the final boss. So to put it another way, I would say the boss fights look and feel way more epic now than they ever did in the original game. The final boss, by the way, not to spoil anything, and I won't, is to some degree similar to the original, though also really difficult, surprisingly. And actually, to that point, this game's a little weird in that it starts off pretty easy. Then it steeps up in difficulty, like, pretty quick, to the point that when I was reaching the latter worlds, I had like 30 lives from the easier earlier levels. I burned through all of them in a single level or two. I'm like, what the hell happened here? So it didn't feel quite as even as before. But on the other hand, I will say, getting back to the controls question you had from earlier, while I liked how the camera controlled better in the original, just in terms of how it felt, I have to say the camera overall is way better than the new one. I was surprised going back and, ooh, this camera was pretty rough before, especially like in some 2D segments, not true 2D segments, but the camera made it look a little bit like 2D. It was really hard to align yourself with a path. You could just easily jump and miss a pathway entirely because you weren't at the right angle for it. Whereas in the new game, I didn't really have many of those issues. There were still, it's not a perfect camera, but it definitely worked a lot better than the new one.
Is there any other stuff in terms of new content related to Pac-Man World 2?
Yeah, let's get a big one out of the way, and I don't want to spoil anything again. There's actually a post-game, though, this time, and it's actually a kind of cool one, especially if you like difficulty spikes, because it gets really tough, really hard, or really fast. Although, I should mention real quick, another new addition is the ability to turn on, basically an easy mode. I think they call it fairy mode, and I only used it twice in the game. I used it at a really hard platforming part near the end of the game for maybe a 10-second window, and then again for the final boss. I was just getting annoyed with them. And what it does is it makes you invulnerable to damage, so you can take as many hits as you want, which is amazing. And also in some harder platforming segments, including in the post-game, it adds new platforms for you to hop onto. So like, whereas it may have been a narrow beam in the main game, they add like clearly new pink platforms surrounding it, so you can just hop to those instead. Which is awesome if you find yourself stuck or you're, maybe inexperienced with platformers. It's a perfect addition, and I appreciated that's there. I didn't think I'd need it, but I fell back on it those 2 times, as I mentioned, so.
And any other new content?
Yeah, so there's new costumes now, like new unlocks. You can also unlock little figurines, like in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, even using the same like capsule machines, right? And I think that's where you can cash your coins in. And so those are cool. You can decorate the village with them. There's like little podiums you can put your statues on, which is neat. So you can, kind of make the village a little bit your own. On top of that, though, I mentioned you have costumes you can unlock. I don't fully know all the unlock conditions for them, but I enjoyed running around as like a Robin Hood-looking Pac-Man, or as one where I'm wearing like the decapitated head of my ghost enemy on my head and was roaming around with this guy. I was like this. I was like running like this as Pac-Man with him on my head. I'm like, yeah, let us be a reminder to the rest of you ghosts what I did to this guy, And I think that's largely it in terms of new content. But there are obviously other enhancements as well. Like the entire presentation has basically been, given a big facelift in terms of it being HD now. Obviously, all the assets were completely redesigned. I will say, I have an affinity for the original animation in the first game's pre-rendered cutscene. I just think there's really something charming about that, and I will say to an extent the whole original game that isn't fully captured here. This new one is almost maybe a little too clean, and that makes sense. This is a little bit of a hyperbole, but it reminds me almost a little bit of New Super Mario Brothers, where it's like has that almost too glossy of a look, whereas there's a little bit of a rougher look to the original, especially for the opening cutscene that I really liked. But the new presentation is still good. It looks clean, in some respects better than the original. Playing the original game's boss fights, for instance, they ended really abruptly and kind of awkwardly, where this game now has, a proper ending cutscene, like with you getting the golden fruit. There's full voice acting now, much more than the original game. Pac-Man actually talks now.
You got it, boss. Just leave everything to me.
which threw me off initially, but it kind of grew on me. I'm like, okay, it's actually a little weird to have a Pac-Man talk in the original game now. And he has, he has a charming, he has charming things to say. I think kind of like in Pac World, Re-Pac 1. And I like that. It added a good humor. The bosses overall sound good as well. I wasn't always the biggest fan of all the Ghost voice acting, but it still works. And I especially did like Spooky, I will say, the main villain of the game. Thought they did a really good job with how he sounded and how they presented it.
Last I'm free from that infernal tree. Now then, you four, bring that accursed golden fruit and follow me. Don't keep me waiting.
Yeah. We're talking a bit about, very shortly, about the difficulty. It seems that maybe one of the main issues with this version of the game, and maybe also with the original, is that there's a lot of large difficulty spikes between levels.
There definitely can be. Yeah, there are definitely some parts. Now, to be fully honest, I haven't replayed the entirety of the first game. I did play the first 2 levels again, or 2 worlds again before this video, and I wasn't noticing any huge difficulty spikes there, but they may come later. So I can't remember if they were fully there before or not. This new game, though, does get really challenging at points. Not always for entirely fair reasons either. For instance, there's some levels where like it's one-hit kills if you land in the lava, which is a little annoying and it feels a little unforgiving. I wish I kind of did the Mario thing where, his butt just catches on fire and he'd like bounce around, but that's not what happens here. Especially as some of those platforms can be a little, unclear where exactly the edge is, for instance. So that can be tricky. And there are other parts in the game that, really kick my butt over and over for, a game that you think would be on the simpler side. And not that I have a problem with difficulty, challenging difficulty, it just kind of feel like it came out of nowhere at points, where I think a more gradual increase would have been preferred.
It wasn't a smooth curve, it just sort of was unwarranted and it came out of nowhere, basically.
Exactly. And I think what annoys me too about this game is it still uses the same live system from the previous game, which feels a little antiquated. So like, for instance, in that level where I went into it with like 30 lives, right? And I ran out lives completely. What that meant was I got a game over and I restart the entire stage from the beginning. And another thing I haven't mentioned is the stages feel really long in this game. I would say on average, I feel like they almost felt like a third too long. Like there were so many times I'm like, I mean, I wish the stage were over by now. Like they overstayed their welcome a little bit, especially compared to the first game. In fact, I did a quick comparison, and between how long it took me to beat the first 2 worlds in Pac-Man World in the Re-Pac edition versus the original game, it took 1 hour and 10 minutes in Re-Pac, whereas it only took me 37 minutes in the original game, which is a roughly 85% increase in length. Now that's not a scientific measuring, but still. Yeah, that's a big time extension, which some people may prefer, but I'm like, man, I just want to move on to the next level, and so and that kind of gets even increasingly the case later into the game.
So you're basically saying if the levels were like a third shorter, it would be the perfect length in the platforming game?
I think so. Yeah, it is, especially with the fact that if you lose your lives, you have to start the entire stage over is a little annoying.
That's annoying.
And I think had they just, had it where it only took away pack pellets or something, that would have been way better. Kind of like how Mario works these days and the 3D Marios. But again, there is that easy mode option, which you can toggle on at any time, though it resets you to the last checkpoint. And you also have infinite lives in that mode too. So that does kind of resolve the issue to a degree. But I hate toggling on that mode if I don't need it. I did use it at one point, again, because I reached a part of a near end game level where I was near the end of the stage. I had 0 lives left. I'm like, I don't want to play the entire stage again. So I just turned it on to get past that one segment that was killing me over and over. So
it still seems like an issue if you have to turn on the assist feature to continue on enjoying the game, right?
I'm a grown-ass man turning on baby mode in a Pac-Man game. I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah. Like from what you're describing, it does feel like those levels should have been a bit more sharper around the edges and a bit shorter and a bit slimming down of the fat.
Pretty much. I think had they condensed them just a little bit, it would have made it just feel a little bit better, or maybe break them up into multiple levels. Like instead of having each level feel like the length of 2, break it up so you have twice as many levels now. I think that would make it feel a little bit more digestible too.
Is it still following then the same structure as the original Pac-Man 2 with how many levels there are there, or are there more levels added comparison to the original?
As far as I can remember, it's pretty much the exact same structure outside of the new post game now. In fact, there were parts of the game that I thought were entirely new, and it turns out I just forgot them in the original. Like there's a part where
fair enough.
There's a part that's basically Star Fox except under the water. I guess more like the Blue Marine from Star Fox, which is like an on-rail shooter, and that was in the original game too. But I will say, from my recollection, it looks like it plays much better than the new one versus the original. It feels even more Star Fox. Fox like. They even do barrel rolls and stuff, which is pretty cool. I had fun with that. I actually thought that segment was awesome. Like, man, where are these? I want more Star Fox levels. We're never getting another Star Fox again. Give me more Star. Let Pac-Man be the new Star Fox.
Is there anything else that you necessarily want to mention about Pac-Man World 2 Re-Pac?
The only other part that stood out, so overall, I want to say I really like this game. I think I came, even though it threw me off initially with how different it felt and looked at points, I did end up enjoying the game. If I had to give it a score, I'd give it probably 7 out of 10, I would say. The part that was a little bit surprising to me is with almost everything getting updated, I don't think the music was really touched at all. I think not only is it, as far as I can tell, the original instrumentation, the original versions of these songs, but they even still have the same awkward loops where it would just fade out in the first game and then restart as if the CD head had to go back to the beginning of the track on the CD. Yeah. And the exact same thing happens here too, which is why I think even more so it's the exact same songs. And if they're not different enough for me to notice. And I love the music before, don't get me wrong. It just, in fact, I'm kind of glad it wasn't changed, but the loop is a little awkward, and it does feel a little bit out of place with how everything else in the game has been updated. Which is a little strange. It's like, oh, so why not just make it more of a, I still kind of wish, I guess I like this game for what it is, but it doesn't replace what I would have loved to have seen also being a true remaster of the original game. Retaining the original visuals, the art, the presentation, just, make it widescreen, maybe improve the controls a little bit, especially the camera, just, softly enhance it rather than go on full remake territory, reimagining territory as they've gone here, which again, I like on its own merits. It's just that when I think Pac-Man World 2, I think so much of the fond memories I had with how I handled back in the day. So I think for those who don't have those memories, this might be even a better fit for them, because they won't know what to expect. In fact, if they've only played Pac-Man World Re-Pac 1, or whatever it was called, I think they're in for a really good time with this game. But if you haven't played that one or are more reliant on memories of the Pac-Man World 2, you might be taken by surprise by a little bit like I was here with how different it can feel, even though the overall structure is very similar to the first game, and which is why the differences kind of stand out all the more. It's like, oh, it's very similar, but also quite a bit different. So, but ultimately, I ended up really enjoying it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think it's actually a really solid platformer. So, yeah. So.
It's an interesting thing with Bandai Namco. Either they do a simple remaster or glow up of a game, or they go all in and say no, we need to reimagine every single element of a game.
Yeah, I don't quite...
And they never do the middle, right? Where they just do widescreen, just a simple HD upgrade. That's it. They either do simple upgrade, going all in 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, 100%. That seems to be the case. So yeah, I would love to know how they come up with these arrive at these decisions, but this one here isn't bad. It's just that it also doesn't replace the original game either. I cannot say Pac-Man World 2 Re-Pac, even if it may be better than the original, I don't know if it is or not. I don't know if I could even say it is. But even if it were, it wouldn't replace the original, because the original still feels very distinct on its own merit. And I do hope that we get some way we're playing that original game too, maybe on NSO at least or something.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So any other questions, Don, or did we cover?
No, I think we're about at the end, right?
I think so. Well, Don, thanks for chatting with me about Pac-Man World 2. I would say if you're a Pac-Man fan, definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun, and especially if you enjoyed the first Pac-Man World, as I mentioned, or Re-Pac, or if you want to revisit some memories of the first game back from the GameCube era, you may like this one too, even though you may have some hang-ups as well like I did. But yeah, still a good game. So with that, thank you for watching, everyone. If you want to follow Don, where can you do that, Don?
You can follow me at Nintendo, as NENTNDAN.
Perfect, and you can keep it locked here on GameXplain otherwise for everything else, Pac-Man or otherwise. We'll catch you later, everyone. Bye.